This week's One Door Studios update, something we've all been waiting for. For the first time since she started the adaptation of Calculated into a major motion picture, Emmy Award-winning screenwriter Ann Peacock joins us for an exclusive interview. Welcome to this week's One Door Studios update, and in my opinion, I think John and Jay's opinion, this might be the most exciting update we've had to date because we have with us Emmy Award-winning writer Ann Peacock. John, Jay, you guys excited for today?
No. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, I'm cartwheel excited.
Yeah,
no, it's so great. It's been a while since we've had Ann live with us, and never with our investors. So
right.
This is quite exciting. First opportunity really for investors and followers to see firsthand what makes us, beyond all that her high achievement career, what makes us so excited about her work specifically on this story.
Yeah. And we actually recorded the interview just about 3 minutes ago, and we had some technical issues because she's in London, and so the stream coming through sometimes got a little broken up. But we want you to hear all of it. We don't want you to. We don't want to edit it real clean for you. You might miss out on some stuff, but you'll get all of it if we kind of work through the technical difficulties. So forgive us for that, but I think you want to hear all of it anyway. So without any further delay, here's our interview with Ann. Ann, it is such a pleasure to be with you here today. It's been a few months since we've seen you, but how are you doing over in the UK right now?
Well, it's lovely, but I'm spending most of my time in a room writing. And then I take a break to go for a run, or our home here is very close to the Thames. So beautiful, absolutely gorgeous walk. So that's a fantastic break when you're busy working. We've also just been in Cornwall. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Cornwall. It's kind of magically beautiful west coast of England, the heritage coast, just wonderful walks and sea, and some of the greatest stories come from that coast because of all the smugglers and who used to come over from France. So it's an area steeped in history and very exciting to be there.
I've always wanted to go.
You must. You really must. I worked there too, and then took breaks to go hiking and swimming. Well, I didn't swim, but gorgeous beaches.
So you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that you kind of go for a daily run. I think when we met last time, you told me an astounding piece of information about yourself. You run nearly each day, right? And you run how many miles?
5 days a week. I run 6 miles a day.
Puts us to shame.
5 days a week.
Because otherwise, when you're a writer, you spend your life sitting, and you need to get off that chair. And I also find that if I'm really struggling with something, it's amazing how if you go for a run, for me anyway, is somehow there's some sort of clarity comes when you're just running along. Even I run along Mulholland Drive, which is not exactly the most wonderful, picturesque place to run. You have to watch out for the cars, but it does. It's a very therapeutic exercise, I can tell you.
Well, so a lot of our viewers, well, they probably know who you are, but maybe some don't know exactly what you've done in the past.
I'm sure they don't. I'm very private in the background, hermit type person.
So you've actually done some pretty astounding works in the past, and I've seen quite a few of them. You actually won an Emmy for a TV movie. Was it called A Lesson Before Dying?
Right.
It was basic. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a really beautiful novel that had been, nobody really taken much notice of it. And I was attracted to it because it was about a black man in the South who was unjustly accused of murder. And so it felt very close to my heart, coming from South Africa, where so many people, were in that situation. But anyway, it very luckily, I won an Emmy for the movie. But the important thing was it was then adopted by Oprah, the book, and then the book became part of the syllabus in American public schools. which was fantastic that
Wow.
it had such an impact. A little known book that nobody had really paid much attention to. And Ernest Gaines was a brilliant writer, but nobody had really known him. And I hope that our story, obviously, will end up in the hands of many kids at school, because there's an important message in here, a couple of important messages, and also a lot of information that they should know about, I think.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, there's another movie that I watched, which I think that you actually just kind of picked up a story and decided you wanted to write on it. It was a story called The First Grader.
Right.
It also takes place. Where does this take place?
It's in Kenya. It was a front page story in the LA Times. And I just, one Sunday morning, in the days when we used to get newspapers, we always used to read the New York Times. And it was about this 82-year-old man who decided he was going to go to school. It was the Kenyan government had just enacted a law that every person had the right to a primary school education. So he said, well, I'm going to go to school. And it was his journey. It was such an amazing story, such courage. And he was up against so many obstacles. Of course, they were completely unprepared for a man of 82 to arrive on the first day of school. But he won through and he got educated. And that was a huge privilege to write that story and, of course, to meet it,
Yeah. Yeah, and I did see that movie. I think each one of us watched that movie too. And I tell you what, there's an amazing payoff at the end of that. It's very well written, very powerful ending. But and then of course, most everybody who watches these videos are familiar that you adapted C.S. Lewis' Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 2005, and everybody sitting here absolutely loves that film, and one of my favorites of all time.
People to this day, it's one of those timeless stories. And even though the movie itself, it's quite a long time ago. When it was 2005, I think.
My son just watched it with his friend yesterday.
Really, yeah, and you can still watch it. The kids are not so jaded. They can still watch that movie and be entranced by it.
Totally.
Books that they always will be. But at the core of it, there's a great story. And when you've got a great story, it will endure, I think.
Yeah. And I think we have that in the Calculated series as well. And I think you would agree. I mean, you wouldn't be writing on it if you didn't agree. Because when we first met, you expressed, how astounding this novel was, and you had a subsequent desire to be the one to adapt it. So now that you're deep into writing it, has the story grabbed you further? Has it spoken to you in ways that you kind of didn't expect it to?
I mean, I think that the main thing about it is realizing I knew nothing about trafficking. It was very anecdotal. And now I'm in the mind and heart of someone who's been trafficked. It's a young adult novel, and Nova pulls her punches, as she should do, because it's a young adult novel. But as a movie with this is a visual experience, which is very different. And I think that it struck me so much more as I was writing about it, what a terrible thing it was that happened to this girl, to be ripped from her home and treated, all her freedom taken away, and this incredible gift that she has used for the vilest purposes. And it really, really made me understand what it must be like to have absolutely no say about anything about yourself. You become an object. And this is the fate of millions and millions of people around the world. I was astounded that it's $150 billion business, human trafficking, not just sex trafficking or labor trafficking. So it took me into a world that I found shocking, And it made me see how absolutely amazing this young woman was. Her ability, she's taken down to, she's broken, she's destroyed, she's taken away from her family, she's told that they're dead, she's treated like a sack of potatoes without any dignity. And, she's in the hands of this crazy woman. And then she lands up in the dungeons with, a criminal, amongst a bunch of criminals. I mean, it's how much worse can it get for someone? And yet she has this, she finds the strength within her to fight back. And I think that's the remarkable thing. She almost gave up. I mean, the wonderful character that we have read, the mentor, gave her the courage to do that, when she almost felt that it was over for her. And that's why you cannot help root for this girl. That when you see what she's gone through, and then she's still able to pick herself up and decide, I'm going to do something. I'm going to fight back. And I think that's what is such an amazing and inspirational about the character, because you think of all the people who never even got the opportunity to fight back.
Well, you're right about the importance of this trafficking issue, which is an element within the story, and the importance of this film and what we do with it. Also, what we've decided, and I think and a lot of our viewers know, that we've decided to donate a large portion of the proceeds of this fund to stop human trafficking. We partnered with a company called NCOSE, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Hopefully through this film being done and going out to the world, we can actually affect the change in that avenue. So this novel, it's a 450-page novel. And I'm assuming, I've never adapted a novel to a screenplay before, but I'm assuming that there are some inherent challenges with taking something that long and turning into, say, an hour and a half, 2.5 hour screenplay. So what are the biggest challenges that you might have faced thus far with this adaptation?
Well, it's exactly that. There's a lot of story. And in a movie, you have to be very careful that you don't crowd out the drive of the story with lateral moves, and also with too many characters and too much plot, because you confuse your audience. About 2 weeks ago, I watched Top Gun Maverick, and I don't know if anybody's seen it.
Yep, we sure have.
It's excellent. It's absolutely excellent, and it's so simple.
Yes.
Of what he's got to do and how he does it. And then there's all the frills around it. And I thought it's so great when a character has a very simple drive and then, sets about acquiring it. And in this story, you have to be so careful that your main character doesn't have too many objectives. Otherwise, you need to know, what do they want? What are they trying to do? And how are they going to do it? You can't have them need to do this, and they need to do that, and they need to do the next thing, and the next thing. You've got to try and keep it clean and focused. And that has been the main challenge, I would say, is trying to, because it's a movie, is trying to sift out what I don't need. What is getting in the way of telling this amazing story of a girl who is taken and has to fight her way back to freedom, which is essentially what it is, and use this amazing gift of hers, which has been, perverted to be used for the vilest reasons, to use her gift for good. And what does she want to do? She wants to bring down a Madam, I call her Madam X. She wants to bring her, destroy her, take her money, and use the money to fund the super bond which is going to avoid this crash. But I have focused on the trafficking aspect of this, because it's much more emotional. It's much easier to understand that you've got to bring her down and free the girls. That's the A story. The B story is there's a crash that's imminent, which is not, we don't have enough time to go into the emotional fallout of that, but we all know what it's like if people are homeless or people, their banks are failing. But that's not sexy, as it were. This leads me into Madame X, as she's known. She has to be a big character. In the book, she disappears at the end of the first act because Joe is taken off to King. So what do? This is your antagonist, who's a primary force. So I have made her a much bigger character in the world. She has got a huge clothing line. She is the fashion design. She is the Gianni Versace. She's Fendi. This is her outward life. She has these incredible fashion shows with these. The ex-girls are the most beautiful. They're from every different ethnicity. She's so famous at that we have a scene at the Paris runway. She's her outward image is of this amazing woman who's a fashion icon. But what we don't know, what the world doesn't know, is this woman is a human trafficker. And even these ex-girls are trafficked girls. So for us, and she's extremely crafty. She's Houdini. She's a chameleon. She's evaded arrest for so long. She's a psychopath, really, in a sense, a narcissist, whatever you want to call her. But she's a big character. And in the way I have kept her in the story, of course, King works for her, so we know what she's doing. But Madame X she's told that, of course, that Joe is dead. That's the story. She sent her off to King. And then there's certain clues. I won't go through it all. She starts to suspect that Joe's out there somewhere. And so what I've been setting up is a kind of stalk on either side. Joe is after her. At the same time, Madame X is thinking, how's King getting this rich? How does this guy suddenly showing up in Bentleys and buying where's he getting this money from? This woman has got his kind of sixth sense for crookery and evil. Why? Because she's the master.
Exactly.
And, and then later on, Chan, who's like Warren Buffett, how come he's suddenly taken over 51% of the shares in her shipping line? What's going on? How did he get this idea? Why is he investing in a company? So there are a couple of things where she realizes that Joe's alive, and she eventually goes after King and manages to. Anyway,
oh my goodness,
it's terrifying.
I'm setting up a situation where two people are trying to get each other. She wants Joe back. She wants her back. She wants to capture her again. And Joe, in the meantime, is setting up a situation where she wants to entrap Madame X, get, absolutely rifle her banks, all her money, and expose her, obviously, and free these girls, and use the money to fund the super bomb. But Joe even goes to one of these shows undercover, just to see her. And this is where this feeling of what is it like to be trafficked, she becomes completely, it's like a PTSD thing. Just seeing Madame X in this guise there. And Madame X thinks she's got this sixth sense. She's got this feeling that Joe's there. Somehow she knows it, And so we said the climactic part of the story is the Shanghai Expo, because that's where everything's going to go down. Yeah. Joe and the Interpol they're expecting that she's walking into a trap. And well, she's not that stupid. But it's a fantastically climactic act, the last act, when they think they've got her, and she's like Houdini. She gets out of it, and she gets Joe. So, yeah. So it's a very exciting last act, is the way it's set up. So I've tried wherever possible to sort of pare out some of the chaff, as it were, which is what you have to do when you adapt any book.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff about Song Valley and Chan's background and all of that, which is interesting, but it doesn't push the story forward. You've got to, whatever you're doing, you've got to say, how is this taking me to where I need to go? So the big challenge was to keep the main character alive, who's a delicious character. I mean, she walks in and people just, So she's one of those people who you are so excited at the idea of catching, but she's not going to make it easy. One thing she says right at the beginning of the story, when she first gets Joe, she says, "I'm always one step ahead. Never forget that." And she is.
So how can she not be? How can she not continue to be one step ahead throughout the story? So that's.
And one thing that our story, I'm sure, is going to go through all sorts of iterations when we all get together. But I would really like it if at the end, Joe, they eventually catch Madame X, but she does. The last thing we hear is she's escaped. And the last thing she said to Joe was, "I'm going to get you. You're always going to be looking over your shoulder for me because I'm going to get you." And which I think takes you fantastically into a next story.
Oh boy.
Whatever we want to do with it. But that was the challenge, was to create a person who's going to travel with, because your antagonist needs to be there. You can't have an antagonist who's not there. At the same time, remembering I've really tried with the story to show it through Joe's point of view, always. The point of view very much through this person, what it's like to be her. And, I haven't talked about the relationship with Kai and all the rest of it, but the primary drive is she's got to get Madame X. That's what the story's got to be about.
Absolutely.
So that,
Well, you've given us a great little view into what you've done, and I think we were excited before, since any moment now, not quite sure what day, but we'll be receiving a draft from you, and it's.
Hopefully,
we wanted to say, give you the space you need
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I know, and we're giving you the space you need, and we don't want to rush you with anything. But I'm just saying we're excited, and now that you've told us kind of where you're going with this, I think I can speak for all of us, John Jay, that we're even more excited.
Undone.
Well, I'm loving it, and I can tell you, it's been a lot of trial and error because. There are a lot of moving parts, spinning plates in this story. It's like maybe that's where the legal training helps, is what's the case about.
Yeah. Well, this has been amazing, and I think I had another question about Joe, but I think you really talked about her earlier, and how does this character speak to you? And you kind of mentioned that through the being trapped and unable to.
I cannot think of anything worse. To have no freedom. I mean, to be enslaved. She's a slave.
What is her? She has an arc throughout the story where she has a weakness and then she's strong. What do you think that is in the first story? What's her main?
The way arc? I have seen her is Joe's quite cocky when she starts out. She's very sure of herself, as many people are who have incredible gifts. And they've been told how wonderful and amazing they are from birth. And they don't have a lot of empathy. She's not nice to her sister, the younger sister, Mara. You can understand the younger sister. It feels very I mean, if you've got a prodigy in the family, that everybody pays attention to that kid, and you're just a regular one, you can understand how her younger sister feels jealous, feels not seen, and Joe is not sympathetic. And this opportunity that PSS comes up with, she thinks this is great. You know, this will mean the world is her oyster. She can do it. And her dad is very worried about that flying too close to the sun thing, and also really wants her to be able to make her own choice without all the fanfare, a real choice of who she should be. And she doesn't listen to her dad at all. She's cocky as hell at first. And so when Joe, this whole thing comes home to roost, she's ignored her father's advice. He's got a bad feeling about it. He doesn't like the fact that there's no contact. You know, I've made it 3 months. There's no contact at all. He thinks this is strange. He thinks it's weird. He thinks it's unsafe. And she says, Dad, I'm not a baby. There's a time when you've got to let go. And so when this whole thing goes down, Joe is humbled. And, she has to really look at herself, and she feels very guilty because this great gift that she's been given is now used in this terrible way. At first she thinks she's just making money for these people. And then the horror of discovering what Madame is actually doing, and that she's been funding this thing, and King as well. It's like, what kind of a person am I? And it's very much coming to understand that she isn't as great and wonderful as she thought she was, and that the numbers are not you cannot solve everything. She believed they did, actually. That everything was about the numbers, even though they got in the way of her life. But everything was solvable through numbers. And she comes to realize it's about feelings, it's about art, it's about love.
Wow. So there's the arc. And I tell you what, Ann, you've really given us something to be excited about.
Yeah.
And all of our viewers something to be excited about. John, you haven't spoken at all, John. I want to give you a chance to if you had any question for Ann or to chime in.
We're just so excited. Talk about the tension building, and we haven't been concerned at all about you. Our thoughts, our discussions, our feelings, our expressions to investors and each other, and other people associated with the project. When we spoke beforehand, we hopefully well expressed how confident we are in you. But to hear you talk about it in ways that are so, that take us into the story and help us look at it more through a cinematic eye and understand it, like you said, more in a Top Gun fashion. It's been interesting, I'm sure for you as well, to watch all of these motion pictures finally roll out. I mean, Top Gun was under wraps for almost 3 years.
And I was not expecting to like it. It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic.
It was brilliant. Well, they did have an opportunity to refine and re-edit, and during that time, the asset became more pressure for that picture to make more money. And they've never had one of his films break $100 million at the box office on opening weekend before. As big as his pictures were, they would get mid-8 figures or so just in the United States. But that was the big dream. Could we get this? Could it be a big enough picture? But they so sweetened it in just every regard. But by the time it was actually released, it was really set up and tuned up to just blow audiences away.
I've never been a great Tom Cruise fan, but I mean, I thought it was an excellent character, that he played, and but I thought the writing was clever, or whoever put this thing together, maybe it was the editors of them who actually crafted it that way, this laser, what's it about? It just took you straight through that story, which I thought was fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's exciting about having someone with your level of craft writing calculated. Because you have obviously a laser focus.
I'm trying. It was like going through the jungle like this.
Well, it's not an easy book. It's not an easy book to adapt. I mean, even just the way it's written with the dual timelines and stuff. We have no idea how you're handling that.
Yeah, I had to do it chronologically with some flashbacks because people, important characters show up very late and disappear, and there are too many of them. And, two love interests. Anyway.
Yep.
I've done my best. So, and I shall keep doing so, sweltering in London.
In London.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Well, it lets you feel like you're in Shanghai in the summertime. So.
Oh, I can't wait to go there when and if. Yeah.
It looks like it's continuing to open up. So we're hoping that this may happen in a few weeks.
I mean, I'm sort of imagining a place that I've never been to based on Google pictures, Google images, and YouTube. So that's fine.
Yeah.
We're about to take care of that. We're going to get you over there.
That'd be great.
So, Ann, thank you so much for this time today. And you've really given us a whole lot more than we expected. We didn't want to take up too much of your time, but you've given us a lot. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to chat to you and working as fast as I can. But it's been tough. And anyway, it'll be great when we can all work on it together. Actually, that's the fun part.
Do you have a new target for us for first draft?
I don't know. I mean, the next few weeks, I'm sort of close, but not close.
It's
there, but not there.
It's that delicate point where you've got
it all together. Yeah.
I do understand, and as one of our viewers said very poignantly, "Go slow to go fast."
Yeah.
There's no sense in rushing out a draft. That's doesn't make it when you can take some time and just make it what it needs to be. Well, Ann, thank you so much. We really enjoyed this conversation today, and I'm sure our viewers are really excited to see you and meet you for the first time, not in just a piece of B-roll, but actually in the flesh. And there you are. So
lovely. Well, I look forward to that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Goodbye from London.
Bye.
Okay.